Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dr. Brian, and we're going to get started right in with our LinkedIn event. So, this morning's topic that I wanted to lead off with, and it came to mind when I was doing a training at a healthcare facility about a month ago. Lead like a visionary, ditch control, take charge, and unlock results. So, what does all of that mean? I'll be talking to you throughout, but I wanted to share some PowerPoint slides to help tell the story. So, with that, um, let us begin. So, just a quick story to begin. Let's start from the beginning. So the difference between taking charge and ditching control is going to be explained with what I like to refer to, and many people refer to, as the leadership myth. So more control equals better results is a myth. And here's why. You get resistance from people as you try to control them. That's just the natural human condition. You get decreased innovation from your team or employees. The team burns out, and you as a leader become exhausted because you're doing more and more and more. The more you try to control, the more people resist, and the more work you're going to do because it's probably or could be, and feel free to put comments in the chat. Your belief might be the more control you have, the better outcomes. Actually, with a team of people, the more control you try to exert, the more work you're going to do because people will wait for you to micromanage. And in study after study and in real life example after real life example, we know certainly Generation Alpha, Generation Z, um, Gen X, and even baby boomers do not like micromanagement. So, my question that I'd like you to think about throughout this LinkedIn event is, what is your desire for control? And can you think of times when you've tried to take control? Has this actually worked against you? And remember, you can request from me a recording of this LinkedIn event or the transcripts. I'll be happy to send that to you. I'll give you my website and email at the end. So, how do I know that control doesn't work? Besides a 40-year career in psychology, business training, consulting, and professional speaking, I saw it firsthand at my dad's factory. My father owned a pleating and embroidery factory. He was a middleman, and he had a 100 employee factory, big giant pleating machines, 100 sewing machines for embroidery. And what he did is coach, train, and delegate. Now, we're not talking about in the 2000s, obviously, because you can see from my hair, I'm not a little boy anymore. However, my brothers and I were down there every summer, and we saw firsthand my dad coached, trained, delegated, taught how to do things. And I can only remember one or two times where I would see him yelling at an employee when other people were around. He might lose his temper once in a while, one on one. And a story that I'll never forget. So remember, my dad's a middleman. He relies on clothing manufacturers to give him work. Uh, One of the salespeople for the manufacturer drove up. He was known as a high maintenance person. He dropped off four giant bags weighing about 100 pounds each of material. No instructions, no invoice, no phone number, and left. So I asked our floor manager, do you want me to move those? She says, no, just we're going to leave them in the corner till he comes back to tell us what to do. 3 days later, he came back and was screaming at the floor manager of the pleating shop, the employees, partly myself because I was standing there. So I just calmly went back to my father's office and explained what happened. And my dad walked out to the factory, asked the gentleman to come into his office. 5 minutes later, the gentleman came back, picked up the bags, put them in his van, and drove off. And what happened was my dad explained to him how he likes to do business, told him he's not going to do business with him. So if the manufacturer wants to do work with my dad, have him call or her call directly. And then he explained to everybody on the pleading floor that our floor manager did the best job and that he appreciates her leadership and calmness in tough situations. And that provides long-term success. So what I learned is my dad didn't have to demand control or lead through control. He took charge. He handled the situation. He later explained what he did. And then down the line, I noticed as kids, we always got to go on vacation. The factory never called unless there was some sort of emergency. A machine broke and they needed approval. And so when they did need approval, they would make a phone call. But for the most part, when my father was on vacation, what happened was the factory ran on autopilot. So I'd like you to think about what would make your team thrive and your leadership thrive. How could you potentially lead on autopilot? And that's the difference between control and taking charge. When you control, you're micromanaging details. You're creating dependence. And maybe not consciously, but in your subconscious, you're driven by anxiety, tension, or fear that you're concerned your team's not going to be able to follow through the way you want. And you're focused on short-term fixes. And you find yourself demanding compliance rather than focusing on performance and know-how. Performance, how is the team doing the job? Know-how, do they know what they're supposed to be doing? Have they been coached and trained over and over, right? Taking charge, can you potentially, taking charge, delegate strategically? So my dad, now I forgot to mention, he started the factory in 1958. So from 1958 to almost 1990, ran the factory on his own. Then my middle brother took over. And I'll never forget how he taught me, he taught others, he coached, trained consistently. And that is taking charge, letting people learn at their level so that they can operate without you being there. That's building capability. And that is not driven by anxiety. That's driven by trust and vision. Where are we going in the future? And investing in long-term growth. I never ever thought I'd get excited when a huge box would come to the factory, but I knew it was either a new pleating machine or a new sewing machine. And, to get excited about what a new sewing machine might do is really, in my mind, kind of odd now, but back then it was kind of fun. Obviously, I went a different direction, didn't take over the pleating and embroidery factory. I went into psychology and training. So the thought I'd like to leave you with is true authority enables capabilities. It enables your employees to be empowered, not just compliant. Compliance is going through the motions. It's not innovative. It's not creative. So before we get into some details, again, I want to re-emphasize the difference between taking charge and taking control. And again, welcome everybody who's joined me this morning. If you're watching the recording, if you'd like detailed notes, let me know. Thank you, Angie and Suzanne and Nancy, for joining me this morning. So, what happens long term when you are focusing on control? When you focus on control, Your subconscious saboteurs are at work. So the strongest saboteur, we all have the judge. The judge is the one that's critical of all new thoughts and ideas. But your controller wears you out. The controller is anxiety, it's tension, and it is not allowing you to let go. And so clearly, what begins to happen is you will wear out. And when you wear out, other people see it. Now, I'd like some of you to think about in your workplace, do you have what I like to refer to as negaholics? Negaholics are negative nannies, Debbie Downer. They're always have an issue or a complaint, but they have a special skill. They know how to make a pithy statement or resist when you're at your weakest moment. They know how to push your buttons. And so the more you try to control, and you can tell from some of my slides, I like a little bit of, they're not the best graphics in the world, but I like sci-fi. That gives me a break and refreshes my brain. There's the best line in the movie Star Wars when Princess Leia is confronting the general on the Death Star, and he says they're taking over the galaxy, and she says, the more you try to control everything, the more the rebellion will slip through your fingers. And the more you try to control, the more other people will try to resist. Now, you might be also trying to please. So the reason I put controller, pleaser, and judge up is when I do a mental fitness quiz with most leaders, the top two saboteurs are controller and pleaser. And so you've got this conflict going. You want to control, but you want to please others. So you're always reaching out and you're wondering why your employees are not moving forward. They're not gaining anything. So literally, we know this from MRIs and CAT scans. This is my main point. So those of you who are watching the recording or even live, you need to know this is not woo-woo. This is psychology backed by neuroscience, backed by years of training. And in fact, over 200,000 people through Stanford University have gone through this program. So when you try to control, you trigger fight or flight. People resist control. They want to be independent. And in our brain, we can see the amygdala shutting down creativity and critical thinking. What we see is stress, tension, and anger. When you do taking charge, when you coach, when you train, when you use creativity, your leadership power comes from psychology, not from position. People might respect you short term from position, but if they don't grow to trust your leadership, if they don't feel like they're being able to move forward and grow in their position, you're going to be pulling people rather than leading people. And so, how to take charge and not control. I encourage everybody I work with and every company to do two things: set a clear vision. Now, most companies have a standard mission statement. I encourage you to have each team in your workplace. So, in healthcare, nurses, doctors, uh, cleanup staff, janitorial staff, subcontractors, do they know the mission statement of your workplace? Each team can have a mini mission statement, and each team can have a vision. Where are they going and where are they heading? And how do they connect to other teams? Connection between teams is crucial. Lead with curiosity, another sage perspective from mental fitness. So, what are you thinking is a great question to ask before you offer any solutions. How do you think we can solve this issue? What can we do as a team together to handle this on a regular basis? Get input from other people. You're going to find your job becomes easier. And delegate real decisions. It's not just a task-driven workplace. It's letting people have input in how to solve issues, feel connected, feel a belonging, and then they will offer solutions. It may differ from yours. Maybe it's better than yours, but what happens is they begin to see that you trust their input, your job becomes easier, and the team flows. So remember, in almost 40 years at a factory where things can go wrong consistently, my dad had the place run on autopilot. What would your workplace look like if it could run on autopilot? And the way to do this is to build in trust systems, create checkpoints and feedback loops. And certainly I would love to help you create those if you don't have a system for that. And so the delegation reset is simple. I'd like you all who are in leadership to make a list of all the things you're doing yourself. What could you delegate so you can get it off your plate? And who's best on your team to give it a shot, to give it a try? This will have a real impact because you'll be able to lead through following up. You'll be able to lead through stretching strengths within your team. So what begins to happen is people begin to follow up, follow through, and begin to run on their own strengths and weaknesses. And the place begins to grow all on its own. The other part of taking charge is assign mentors on each team to help with coaching and training. In leadership, your goal is to oversee, not run everything. That's just not doable in today's workforce culture. There's too many things for you to be focusing on. And with taking charge in leadership, you'll begin to focus on your strengths, delegate your weaknesses to employees and team members into their strengths. Now, what begins to happen slowly over time, but within about 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to see productivity go up. You're going to see optimization of communication. You're going to feel less stress and tension. Therefore, the whole team and organization will have less stress and tension because they know that you are trusting in their ability to work, follow through, add ideas, and create input. Remember, in today's work culture, people are striving for, they want connection, community, training to take a step up. And you will increase your workforce retention and lower costs by following this, not philosophy, but way of being. This is a rewiring of your mindset, and it can be done over 6 to 8 weeks with some simple practice. So, with that, let me take a quick check in. Does anybody have any questions? And feel free to unmute. And if you don't, that's okay. If you have any input or comments, please
I
share.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Um, what's the difference? Because I'm an HR coordinator, and I seem like my HR directors are controlling me, and how can I impose to the employee and what to do? Because right now, it seems like he controlling me, but it's not really leaderships. So how can I approach that in different ways?
that's a great question. My first thought is two things. For you to model to employees this way of being in terms of taking charge is okay, why is the employee coming to see you? So, in my mind, and please jump in and tell me if I'm wrong, they're coming to see you because of an issue. They might feel like they're in trouble. They may need corrective behavior. They may need the employee assistance program. So, they're already anxious coming to see you. By taking charge, you provide solutions and options. So you'd call me in and say, hey, Brian, here's what's going on. So let me take the mystery away. Here's several ways we can solve it. I'd like your input. Why is it going on? What do you think we can solve? How do you think we can solve it? And how can we come together to reach a mutual decision to fix this?
Oh,
And then the employee is coming along with you. They're not being dictated to. Now, for you and your boss, I would request a meeting and say, this is how I'm working with my employees. I'm a little worried or concerned about our interactions. I wonder if we can communicate in this way. And you just offer some suggestions. And if
Okay.
you could have a monthly or every other month meeting with your boss, then you can create a different flow of communication.
Yeah, but a last one question. Does AI really kicking in of that situations happening, becoming a leaderships, and how do we attract?
Well, that is also a great question, and I will tell you you can contact me on LinkedIn and I can send you the
Yeah.
study, but look up the MIT study on AI, leadership consulting and training.
Mhm.
Soft skills training is not being taken over by AI yet.
Mhm.
Professional speaking isn't being taken over by AI yet because despite all of the hoopla, and AI does a wonderful thing. I mean, AI helped me create an outline with my input in 20 minutes
Mhm.
versus, and that's
Okay.
with me editing and putting my voice in because AI doesn't have my thinking and my voice. It just scans the internet for information. So people can tell, is this you or is it, a
Yes.
repeat of what's on the internet? Now, for leadership, is AI replacing leadership? It cannot because AI can't do something you and I can do.
Mhm.
Think and feel. It
Yes.
gathers
It just is a
information
robot.
and gives input. It's gaining every day. It's learning more and more. Again, I'm a sci-fi fan, so I hope we don't get to Skynet and Terminator. But AI is learning, but it is a companion piece. And you can see, and Angie, if you want to chime in on this, you can see when you ask AI to do something, the lack of insight that it has. And I'll give you a simple example. I'm working on my own branding. So I thought, oh, great. I love this. I help people take a step up, leaders, HR, nursing. So I said, here's my resume, here's my background, here's my biography. Give me
Mm.
a graphic on step up. So you know what it did? Gave me four different colors of an arrow going upstairs. So I thought, wow, if I put that on LinkedIn, people think I'm a contractor. I mean, it didn't
I
show
actually test
anything
that too.
meaningful.
Yeah, for my
So
resume, AI.
yeah, AI needs to be a companion piece. And I will tell you, I have a lot of family and friends that are in teaching and coaching, and they're afraid of AI. So I try to use humor, not quite sarcasm, as often as possible. A friend of mine was that I've known 40 years was arguing with me over AI, and I said, I just have a quick question. Are you riding your horse to work tomorrow? And he said, no. And I said, why? It's transportation. You save on gas. Um, make AI a partner, work with it. It's just like new technology. Now, is it going to replace jobs? Yes, so did tractors. Is there fear? Yes, but if you face the fear and take charge, you're going to be so much better off. So, taking charge rather than taking control. You can't control AI, but you can take charge of it. You can learn it, you can adopt it, you can make it useful for you in your job, in your profession. I myself am looking at different models to get my grandkids certified in AI. And when my family said, why are you sending us this stuff? I said, because if our 10-year-old and 9-year-old can learn ethics, morals, values, and legality of AI at this age, they will still be able to choose any profession they want, but they can be entrepreneurial now. They can get work by the time they're in college by having people pay them for AI expertise.
Mm.
So since it's here now, why don't we start? Because if you deny them the use of it, they're going to be behind the wheel in school anyway. So with
Thank
that, I'd like to remind people you can contact me at drbriangrossman.com. Request a free consult. Let's just chat about what your needs are. What are your goals? What are your outcomes that you want in this philosophy and way of being in a mindset of taking charge and not taking control? I guarantee that will have outcomes that you want. I'm not going to push you into anything. So just go to drbriangrossman.com, request a free consult. You'll also get a free report. And with that, any more questions? We are at 7:26. I can't thank you all for joining me live. I really appreciate your time. And I will stop the recording and we can chat. Again,
Yep.
go to drbriangrossman.com
Yeah.
for a free
Yeah.
consult and take a look at my webpage.